When it looked like the end of the road for superstar scorer Alexei Kovalevs, he would turn in arguably his greatest performance ever. Alexei Kovalevs, the ultimate what-if player in hockey history, a skater dripping in offensive abilities, armed with the skill set the majority of the NHL would kill to possess, but at times lacked the will or effort to maximize those raw talents. A tease for franchises. If you could unlock the enigmatic offensive dynamo, you had yourself a first-line game-breaking talent. If not, the coach, GM, and fan base quickly resented the All-Star for not living up to those God-given abilities. But as Alexei Kovalevs entered his 15th season in the National Hockey League and his third full season with the Canadiens, it seemed as though the 15th overall pick in the 1991 draft was all but done in Montreal. After having an awful year in his return to New York and struggling down the stretch after the initial trade to Montreal, Canadiens fans got to see some flashes of Kovalev's brilliance, scoring 10 points in 11 playoff games, as well as leading the team the following year with 65 points in 69 games, as well as 7 points in 6 postseason games. While it was short of his high-flying point-per-game Penguin days, it showed Kovy could still be counted on for scoring. Then, it all came crashing down in the 2006-2007 season. Montreal missed the playoffs, and a lot of the blame would fall on Kovalev's shoulders, along with a linemate the Habs brought in to specifically play with him and Tomas Plekanec, Sergei Samsonov. Not only was it a disaster on the ice, but the Russian duo caused a bit of drama off of it, and it stemmed from a sour relationship with rookie head coach Guy Carbonneau. A situation that most could have probably seen coming, Guy Carbonneau built a Hall of Fame career figuring out ways to stop talented players like Alexei Kovalevs, winning 3 Selkes in the process, using systems and structure to thwart the game's ultra-talented stars. Kovalev was the exact opposite, an artist on the ice using feel and rhythm to create a hockey masterpiece versus color-by-number templates. Not much for structure. Usually the last person who knew what Kovalev was going to do with the puck was himself. But he could perform magic with that puck, although when he wasn't creating magic, he was creating headaches. Bob Gainey would say he was playing a style that had a high degree of difficulty with too low a degree of success. This coach-player combo was not exactly a match made in hockey philosophy heaven. And with Kovalev and Samsonov making their displeasures public, it affected the locker room and the quality of play on the ice suffered. Former Canadiens icon Guy Lafleur had some harsh words for the duo. Me, myself, and I. He punishes everybody because he's not playing up to his expectations. I say without exaggeration that Samsonov and Kovalev are very talented, but they are very, very capricious. If they are not happy, they should be scratched from some games. It should be avoided at all costs that 1 or 2 players takes control of the team. On a hockey team, there's nothing as useless as a prima donna who creates more problems than nice plays. Woof! And that's not from some scrub calling you out, that's hockey royalty. Kovalev finished tied for 5th in team scoring with 18 goals and 47 points. Numbers similar to his disastrous New York Rangers, Canadiens 2003-2004 campaign. Only now he was 33 years old. A bounce-back season on age alone would be a cause for concern. And to make matters worse, he possibly blamed the head coach for his struggles. A story came out which Kovalev denied in the midst of the Canadiens missing the playoffs. The disgruntled winger was interviewed by a Moscow radio station, with no audio available, only transcripts, claiming Kovalev said, Guy Carbonneau doesn't like Russians, that French-speaking players receive preferential treatment, the coach doesn't talk to his players, and that the team's emphasis on defense stifles creative players like himself and Sergei Samsonov. As you can imagine, a media storm hit the locker room, and while everyone said the right things to stomp out the story, Kovalev himself will go on the record a month later and say, "At the end of the season, I had a discussion with GM Bob Gainey. I told Getty that I didn't want to be back on the team if I'm treated the same way as I was this past season. So let's break all this down. You have an outspoken, declining superstar, making a fair amount of money, publicly frustrated with a rookie head coach's system. A coach who happens to be a beloved two-time cup winner with the franchise. They also just missed the playoffs, and fair or unfair, the star carried a reputation of checking out mentally in a hockey-crazed media market. Probably not a situation you want to find yourself in if you're Bob Gainey. Most, if not all, expect the team to find a way to move on from Kovalev over the summer. But most, if not all, were dead wrong. Instead, the following season, not only did Kovalev return to Montreal, it may have been the best version of the AK-27 ever. The plan was to reunite Kovalev with center Tomas Plekanec. A risky proposition considering the first half with Kovy was a disaster. And Plekanec actually greatly improved away from him in the second half, scoring 33 points in 41 games. But with Captain Saku Koivu being 33 years old, it was imperative to the future of the franchise to see if Plekanec could be a top-line anchor. To start the season, the duo seemed to be clicking far better than the previous year, with both Kovalev and Plekanec scoring 11 points in the team's first 14 games. The third member of the line, sophomore Guillaume Latendresse, struggled to keep up, scoring only 4 points in that span. Maybe Kovalev was right about Carbonneau favoring French-speaking players. Just kidding. Although many speculated that's who Kovalev was referring to in his favoritism issues from the previous year, allegedly. However, on November 8th against the Boston Bruins, with Latendresse not healthy enough to suit up, Kovalev and Plekanec would be joined by 22-year-old former 10th overall pick, Andrei Kostitsyn. Up until this point, Kostitsyn had about 40-ish games under his belt in the NHL, and so far this season, he hadn't produced much in a limited role, averaging 12 minutes in 10 games with 3 points. However, head coach Guy Carbonneau stumbled upon an interesting combination, as the Canadiens won 2-1 with his new top line combining for 6 points. And while Kostitsyn only finished the month of November with 5 points in 11 games, Carbonneau stuck with the highly talented Belarusian, and his patience paid off, as his top unit would become one of the best lines in the league from December on. Alexei Kovalevs, who was already in the midst of a wonderful comeback campaign, scoring 21 points in 25 games, really turned up the production in December and continued the rest of the season, becoming the offensive catalyst the franchise really hadn't seen in years. But before we get into the line's success, how did we get here with Kovalev? A few moments ago, I was discussing his fallout with the coach, coming off maybe his worst season ever, with the media swarming and fans booing and him threatening to not come back. What changed? A simple walk in the park. Roy McGregor of the Globe and Mail wrote a wonderful article on Alexei Kovalevs' resurgence. I'll link it in the description below. In it, he details the end of the troubled 2007 season and how those close to the team credited a walk GM Bob Gainey and the disgruntled star took in the summer along the Montreal waterfront, where Gainey did something very important for the team and their relationship with their most talented forward. He listened. It's not like I stopped playing or anything, but people thought I had lost interest. Bob said that. We sat and talked. He asked me, "What is the problem? What do you think?" Bob just let me talk and he solved the problem. I needed support and I needed people to believe that I could do that job. Kovalev, despite his philosophical differences with head coach Guy Carbonneau, who, if you remember, Kovy allegedly accused of not talking to his players, realized he had someone in the organization who felt he could still play. Gainey giving Kovalev an ear to vent, along with the Russian national team not inviting Kovalev to participate in the World Championships due to his lackluster play, motivated Kovalev to come back a better player. Determined, focused, and in shape, the AK-27 reloaded and was reborn. And now in a better place mentally, this time around he served as a mentor to his young line mates. Instead of his play dragging down the development of Tomas Plekanec, he helped him reach his playmaking potential and led the way for the Canadiens offensively. There wasn't a Mark Messier or Wayne Gretzky or Jaromir Jagr or Mario Lemieux for Kovalev to have a secondary role with. He was the best weapon on this roster, and the Montreal Canadiens needed him to be the man, and he was. And as unlikely as Kovalev's bounce back seemed over the summer, What seemed even more unlikely was the Montreal Canadiens becoming one of the best teams in hockey. But fueled by a high-powered power play and the top line hitting their stride in December, that's exactly what happened. Andrei Kostitsyn from December 1st on scored 23 goals and 45 points in 57 games, a 65-point pace, while averaging 16 minutes and 26 seconds time on ice. Ending the season with 53 points in 78 games, Canadian fans believed they were witnessing their elite scorer of the future in the AK-46, who also added nice size and hitting to the unit, throwing around his 215-pound frame for 104 hits. Scoring 51 points in the next 56 games, Tomas Plekanec truly broke out, surpassing Alexei Kovalevs as the team's first-line center at 25 years old. Increasing his ice time from 16 minutes the previous season to 18 minutes, the former third-round pick scored a career-high 29 goals to go along with his 69 points. He'd rank second in goals and points for the Canadiens, behind the artist who put it all together. Alexei Kovalevs finished the season with 84 points, the second highest of his career, and his highest total since the 2000-2001 season. Good enough for 11th in the entire league. He was also the centerpiece of the league's best power play, who had their work cut out from the start, losing power play beast Sheldon Souray from the previous year. Kovy led the team in both power play goals with 17 and assists with 30, and actually improved from the 22.75% to 24.6%, with immense help from offensive blue line brilliance behind Andrei Markov and Mark Streit. The clear-cut MVP of the Canadiens, Kovalev also had his best showing of his career in the Hart Trophy voting, finishing 8th. The Canadiens marched up the standings, going from 15th in the league scoring and missing the playoffs and a toxic locker room the previous year, to 2nd in the league in scoring and the best record in the Eastern Conference. To put into historical context how special Kovalev's season was for Montreal, his 11th place finish in league scoring was the highest for a Canadiens player since Mats Naslund finished 8th in the high-scoring 1980s with 110 points in the 1985-86 season. And at the making of this video, which if you're enjoying, please subscribe, Kovy's 84 points also represents the highest totals for any Montreal player to date in 30 years, since Pierre Turgeon scored 95 points in the 1995-96 season. Being 34 years old and where his career could have headed with an ugly breakup after the very public disappointing season, his magical 2007-2008 season did wonders for his post-career reputation in Montreal and his overall legacy. He even wore the C when Saku Koivu couldn't suit up. And the line's magic continued into the postseason, as the Canadiens beat the rival Bruins in 7 games, and into Game 1 at home against the Flyers with Kovalev scoring 2 goals. However, the magic ran short as the Canadiens did not win another playoff game, losing the next 4 to the Flyers. Kovalev impressively led all Canadian forwards in ice time and points, while Plekanec and Kostitsyn also played well, scoring 8 points in 12 games. The following season, the Canadiens could not replicate the same success, and unfortunately couldn't avoid some drama that plagued the 2006-2007 season, costing Guy Carbonneau his job. Tomas Plekanec massively regressed from his breakout season with only 39 points, and while Kostitsyn hit 20 goals again, his sophomore year would ultimately be the best season of his career. And to Kovalev's credit, he still led the team with 65 points at age 35, in what would be his final season in Montreal. Still, while it had some bumps along the way, Alexei Kovalev's time in Montreal was memorable to say the least, and in my opinion, with all things considered, they got the AK-27's finest season ever. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more line combo content.